And so,
Yeah. Well, welcome back, Dennis.
well, it's good to be back.
Good evening to you,
Good evening to you,
young man.
mon monsieur.
Yes.
Monsieur Erik.
Yes, I have been to La France, and I have.
You will have to see about La France.
I have.
The men who do not shower.
Well, I don't know about that, but we talked about this before, or I talked about it. The way that the French separate the toilet
Yes.
upon which you sit
Yes.
from the shower and the sink, such
From
that
where so you don't clean yourself where you shit.
you shit in one place and then you touch at least two doorknobs on the way to the place where you wash your hands. And from the country to which we honor the idea of the bidet to wash your nether regions, it seems so awkward to me that and this was not, because this is the first time that I've stayed in a hotel in France. All the other times it has been in an Airbnb, and it's like this is the way that the apartment people live. But this was I stayed in a hotel where the shitter was in its own little closet, and you go in there and do your business. There was no bidet, and then you have to walk out of that room and then into another room in the same hotel room suite area to wash your hands. And it was just like
why don't they have like a little towel, moisturized towel dispenser right there in a garbage can, for example? Then you're washing your hand without having to have water or bidet.
Well,
now this isn't an astounding clever idea.
That would not be very environmental, according to my research.
Why? Because the paper towels absorb the particles of shit in the air?
I saw a video today that's from the pro-bidet lobby that said that every single roll of toilet paper uses like 300 liters of water to be created, and every little spritz from a bidet is a lot less than that. So, anyway.
Played poker with a guy the other day, and he said he was at a hotel somewhere and they had one, and he thought it was a drinking fountain, and how clever it was to be right there where he needed it.
Well, I assume that was not one of the ones that is, because apparently the Japanese are very innovative, as the British would say.
Innovative
on this topic, where they have this little thing that like shoots down from when you're already on the toilet and sprays you. Anyway, let's get to another topic, please.
Oh, listen, it's your topic. We can squeeze it, so to speak. No pun intended.
No, let's wipe this.
So did I tell you about the expression my brother had? We went fishing. We're on a fishing trip. Just got back and had one bathroom and 6 men. And in the morning, it was rather nerve-wracking for some and others, other emotions. But my brother says, "Get him out of there. Get your brother out of there." And I said, "Why?" He says, "God damn it, I got to shit." And I said, "Well, hey man, it's he's in there, right?" So you knock on the door. "No, I'm coming." And he says, "Man," and here's the phrase: "Says I'm going to shit a ham."
That's good.
And it stuck to me. I wish it hadn't.
Shit a ham,
to me, so to speak. I'm going to shit a ham. Oh, I have many funny stories about this fishing trip.
Yes, and we should milk it for several episodes. But I don't know. Did you catch any fish?
Oh my God! So they will be posted. They're enormous. It's like a circus. It's a chaos of river and other fishermen, and a netter is usually involved. And we fish for
a netter.
A netter, someone with a net who's going to be netting the fish. These fish are so big that they're 39 inches long is the biggest one. Okay, it's better than 3 feet long, and they're this thick. They're 2 feet.
39 inches for our non-American listeners is 1 meter.
1 meter.
1 meter.
1 meter.
Yeah. 1 meter. Yeah. The fish was 1 meter.
It's very innovative.
Yes.
They put it together for you
Yes.
on the river.
So,
And so you have line that in the case of the first couple of days was 8-pound test, meaning it was a certain weight, and the fish was 20 pounds.
I've always wondered how that math works out, that you can use a weaker line to catch a stronger fish.
Because
Do explain.
the weaker the line, the clearer the line, the smaller the line, the less visible the line. And so if fish are spooky...
So if you're doing a magic trick...
You're throwing a big, heavy line at them, it'll spook them. But when you go down to an 8, it's much less recognizable. And, nice, Bo.
Okay, so that was not my... So my question was about the physics of the... How do you pull a 20-pound thing on a 8-pound line?
It was, how do you do it?
Well, how does that work?
What's the math? Well, there's math here that is beyond me. But the point is...
I want equations, Dennis.
While it's not remarkable to pull in 8 or 10-pound fish, 12-pound fish even on 8-pound test, when they're this big, they tend to break off. So you go to a bigger line, which we ended up doing, and it took 4 days for me to land the fish.
To catch a single fish, 4 days.
Land it. I had 15 fish on over the course of the first few days.
Your line is weak.
Fighting and running the line and going upriver and jumping out of the river with the line going out and then going around a tree and and they're breaking off and jumping and breaking it and coming at you and breaking it. But no fish landed, meaning skunked in the vernacular.
Yes. This is a metaphor for your dating life, I think. Where,
back in the day, I can't remember that far back.
You were just
remember, I've been
you
married
had some
most of my life. I've married most of my life.
You had some really impressive fish on the line, but your line was just too weak, and they escaped.
Right, my line was thinner, but then I made it thicker, and then I caught more fish.
Well, there you go.
You can go wherever you want with that. You want to start talking about the bidet again? You freaking quirk.
No. Okay.
Are you sure you're not British?
So you...
Are you sure you're not British with a clever American accent?
I'm positive. I'm positive.
It's very invasive if it's true.
Yes. This
is your English.
This is
innovative.
This is how the British speak in Brooklyn. So
where you live with all your other podcasters. How's that going, by the way?
Well,
it's remarkable at breakfast. Everyone wanting in line to get to the freaking microwave to pop some kind of cherry popper.
No,
nothing fancy, but everyone has one.
We don't want to get to the microwave. We want to get to the microphone because we're podcasters.
Podcasters.
Whoa,
that sounds pretty serious. Do you want to talk about it?
No. With a weaker line, you're going to get more nibbles and bites and stuff, but then you can't actually bring the fish in. So
it could be that would be a trade-off. Yes. And sometimes the fish are so spookish that you got to go even lower to a 6-pound test, lighter, thinner, so that the odds of catching the fish increase, because you'd rather have one on for a minute than necessarily bring one in. You can't bring one in if you don't catch. The ratio of landed fish to fish hooked is about 1 to 10.
Okay.
So, yeah. So one day...
But it's way more entertaining for the fishermen to have one that's like fighting him and then it breaks off and you're like, oh, well, such is life.
We wouldn't rather have that. No, we'd rather net it and land one because otherwise you're...
So I'm missing
stuck.
I'm missing the trade-off that I don't know. I'm sure with a heavier line, you're going to get fewer bites, but then with fewer bites,
this isn't a fish that bites, so to speak. This is
I'm talking
generally. I understand
hooks, whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Flies. Say it. Flies. It's really a word.
So,
flies.
Is there a joke?
You throw flies at them.
Is there a joke among fly fishermen that you say, oh, your fly's down?
No,
there should be.
No.
Okay.
No, there shouldn't be. If you said that in a river, you'd probably fucking drown you.
Well,
you're obviously from some fucking godforsaken planet that doesn't know how to fish the river.
Well, for sure, I don't know how to fish the river. So it was a successful journey, all in all.
And here's the thing of it is that my brothers and I, there's 4 of us, and then our buddies, there are 2 of them, so there's 6 people. That's a lot of people to fish. So we have a hole, so to speak, a fishing hole where the river changes, and the logs are there, and they create a pool. And in that pool, the fish that are busy swimming around, they get tired, so they go in the pool and they rest. And then when you throw something in front of them, you kind of hope that they breathe it in, because that's what they're doing. They're just going, walk, open the mouth, close the mouth, stuff comes in. If it's stuff they want to eat, they swallow it. If it's stuff they don't want to eat, the gills clean it out, and if it's dirt or whatever, they don't eat it. And that's what they're doing. So you want to get something right in front of them. And then when you're near them, you want to bring your hook out of the water and catch them in the lip. Okay. So it's my brother, Timmy, is crazy with this, where he has got one day, he had 40 fish on in one day. 40. Playing, fish jumping out of the water, breaking up, fish on, fish off, and landed
Wait,
7.
That's from The Karate Kid.
What's that?
Fish on, fish off?
It's a lot of parallels.
Okay.
There's a lot of parallels.
So this whole idea of it's good to have fish playing with you, but it's better to actually catch one. What do you do with the fish when you catch them?
We resuscitate them and then let them go after we take pictures.
Right. You say, hey, cheese, here's our picture. Don't die on me. Come back to me.
Go in the water, and you have a fish by the tail, and you point them upstream, which is their natural position to take in oxygen, and you hold them by the tail and gently under the belly between the 2 front fins, and you pull them back and forth and move them up and down the river a bit, which opens their gills and moves water through their mouth out their gills, and pretty soon they'll start to wiggle and shake, and then they'll swim away.
Okay.
Then they swim further up the river, and eventually within a matter of weeks they will die. And I have made contact with them in a way that is blessed and sometimes cursed.
In the spiritual realm, or on your plate?
Take me to the river.
So there's no mouth-to-mouth CPR. It's more of a river shuffle.
If you were there, it would be, I'm sure. But no, we don't do that.
Okay, good.
I'm sure you would want to go mouth to mouth with the fish, like you want to do with anything that legs or no legs makes no difference to you.
Right.
Give me some lips. That's all it has to have is lips, and you're ready to make friends.
So do fish have lips?
Of course they do.
Okay.
So you'll post something. Post a picture of fish lips, and post a picture yourself and see if you see what I see. So tonight,
yes, sir.
Tonight I have to tell you, I'm trying a new brew that I am absolutely delighted with. Lagunitas, Little Sumpin Ale.
Sumpin.
For you, Sumpin.
Little Sumpin.
Little Sumpin. And it's got a little IPA-ish, definitely robust.
Does it have a little something?
A little something. It's just a little bit of something.
It don't got a lot of something.
Nah, I don't need a lot.
No, just a little something.
You only need a little bit of something. Everybody knows that. Except for you, fish lips.
All right, well, we will be posting that in the show notes.
What? We're posting it where?
That will be in the show notes at happyhour.fm/027.
Well, okay. All right. Good. Good on the math.
Yes. Wait, no, it's not only 9 times 3, it's 3 cubed.
That's important.
So if you have
That's important.
So, for example, a Rubik's Cube that is 3 little cubes by 3 little cubes by 3 little cubes, you got 27 little cubes in there. Although I think the inside is actually more of a hinge, but anyway, we will leave that alone right where we left it.
Well, I barely even saw it, so it was a glimpse. It was a glimpse. That's twice you've abruptly changed the subject after bringing it up. But I'm sure when you're editing this, it'll make you sound clever. So I'm sure you will do your best.
So I had an epiphany in the time that we've been apart. Yes. I had a British friend take me out to a whiskey bar. And in this whiskey bar, they poured us just this tiny little, maybe a pinky worth of whiskey into a big wide glass. And the amount of liquid I could have taken in one sip, but it cost like 12 euros, which is like $15 or whatever for this little finger. Of whiskey. And it was really good, high quality Scotch shit. And I had this experience where for the first like 10 minutes, I was just enjoying bringing the glass up to my face and just smelling it. And it was
what was it?
It was, I don't know what the first one was. The one that we enjoyed the most was an Ardbeg, which I will put in the show notes. That is it's a very peaty Scotch whiskey. And previously I had been in my whiskey tastings, I had been very anti-peat because it's just the flavor is just so fucking strong. But in this time, like I took just a tiny, tiny little bit of sip that just wet my lips, and just my mouth exploded in experience and flavor and stuff. And it was very nice. So we took this little tiny sliver of a finger, and for 15 or 20 minutes, we would just sort of nurse this thing. And it was just so delightful that that lesser whiskeys don't provide that experience.
Blends, for example.
Right, exactly. This was a single malt, of course. And it was just a lovely experience. And so since then, I've been very curious about other such whiskey experiences.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, when you come to see me, you and your family, we will go to Tiffany's in Kalamazoo, where they have on stock every Scotch whiskey that comes into the United States. It's an entire row of Scotch, from low shelf to high shelf. And then back in the back, a couple behind a glass case, locked, that are even more exotic and extravagant, and particularly in bottles that are shaped by glass blowers into, like a trumpet or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know how. I understand that you need to differentiate yourself with the look of your bottle,
but
on the other hand, if your shit is good enough, maybe you don't need to.
So I will tell you this. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I recall once upon a time I did a tour of the distillery for the Glenlivet, which is a well-known Scotch whiskey brand.
Single.
Yes, and it was fascinating to see how they put all this importance on the purity of the water in the Highlands of Scotland, and et cetera, et cetera. But the thing that most stuck with me from that entire tour was where they said, look, the whiskey we are making right now, we are going to put into casks for 15 to 18 years. And whiskey is a luxury item that can only really be sold when the economy is good for spending on luxury items. And there ain't nobody that has any idea of what the economy is going to look like in 15 years. Because we, like, your best experts might make a slight guess about what the economy is going to look like in 2 years.
Right.
But at that point, there's so much chaos theory that you just have no clue. So they are just sort of making it up how much quantity they make, and maybe in 18 years the economy is shit and they have to sell it for less, or the economy is great and then they have a limited quantity and they can sell it for a lot more. It's that sort of crazy math that had never occurred to me, that how hard it must be to decide how much to make for a time way far in the future.
I wouldn't think that that's what the question is for them. I believe the question is, given the facilities they have, what percentage of those facilities will be used for that, and whatever that is, that's what they make. but as long as it's not ridiculous.
No. But it's not that, like, they have to choose what percentage of our facilities will be used to make 9-year-old scotch, and how much will be used for 12-year-old scotch, and how much will be used for 15 and 18.
Right. There's only so many barrels.
Sure.
Spaces, right?
For sure. Right. But it's a matter of partitioning.
For sure. Partitioning, yes. Oh, that's nice.
Partition this.
IQ? Try IQ? It's just for the listeners. Mr. Professional Podcaster just gave me the finger. Gave me the bird.
Well, if I was
disrespectful, an old man like, fuck you, man.
If I was in Scotland,
I
would give you 2.
Why?
That's a good question. So, the apocryphal answer that is almost certainly totally false, that in England, if you want to tell someone to fuck off, you show them 2 fingers with the knuckles facing the person, not the peace sign. That the 2 fingers, the story goes that it was a thing between the English and the French, where the English were totally dominating the French with their longbows off of horses, where they would pull back and fire these arrows really far, and they would just destroy the French. And so the French took to the idea of any time that they captured someone, when they weren't sure if they were an archer or not, they would cut off their 2 fingers to be like, well, you're not going to fire any more arrows at us. So the British took to giving, whenever they saw an enemy Frenchman, they would hold up 2 fingers like, I still got my 2 fingers, motherfucker.
And I'll cut yours off, bitch.
Right. So that is nice, but that is probably totally false, but it is certainly true that in England, if you're going to order 2 beers, you need to do it with
the peace sign.
With the peace sign, not the knuckles facing.
V, right, which actually, peace or V for victory is the same. Churchill was the peace sign as V for victory.
Yeah, so did you know there was a Roman one time that went into a bar and held up 2 fingers and was like, I'd like 5 beers, please. Because... Right. The numerals. You dare not explain it to our listeners. Now, this is going to be a big hit in Uruguay because they're all about bars and stories about Romans. Or so I've been told. In this week that we've been apart, I have actually met some people from Uruguay.
There you go.
And however, I think we've sort of fallen off the Uruguay charts.
Well, the last time I checked was 2 weeks ago. We had jumped 6. So
yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure with this particular entry, we will skyrocket back up to our pinnacle.
You're supposed to do research on what is of interest in Uruguay. We've not done it. You're basically a lazy shit.
I can tell you, football.
Well, you met Urakian.
They're not called Urakians.
What are they called?
Jesus Christ.
What are they called?
In English, I would say Uruguayans. I don't know. Who knows?
I know. Equestrians. Because they all ride horses. Polo. Right? Shit like that down in the...
Yes, for sure.
Huh?
Yes.
Huh? For sure.
For fuck's sake.
Oh, well, for God's sake. Oh. So we had this phenomenon where, while we were fishing on the river, and imagine, if you will, that there are in the river, the Salmon River in Syracuse, that there are, on a weekend, a fisherman or a fisher person, a man or a woman, fishing within 20 feet of you. And that is a perpetual view all the way up the river. Every 20 feet, there's another person, both sides of the river, and everyone is drifting with the river, and some are catching fish, and some are not, and some are, and some are not, and occasionally a boat would bump by. Oh, no. It's a flat bottom boat with a guy with oars, and then a person in the front, and a person in the back, as many as 3 people, and they bump down the river, so to speak, because it was, in the deepest part, it was 6 feet deep, 4 feet deep, shallow, 2 feet deep, whatever.
Sure.
And they go down the river. So at one point, these guys who were local, I guess, started yelling when the boat was in view, real loud, boat, boat, boat. And then guys up the river, all the way up the river would go, boat, boat. And so I never heard it before. I've been fishing there 20 years. Nobody had ever done that. But the proliferation of boats in the river has gone sky high. So it's likely a whole new day in age with the traffic. Because you got to pull your line up when they come by or you're going to get tangled with their oars. So like I tried to start the chant later in the day.
Oh, no.
There weren't any locals around, and I was alone. Boat! And none of my brothers said anything. And we were with 6 guys. Nobody up the river said anything. And then I yelled out, goat! And my brother, Timmy, says, oh, I thought you said goat. From the punchline from that whole Irish island joke about the old man in the audience. But still, I tried it later and nobody joined in. So there's something weird.
You're the boy who cried
about
goat.
being the only person on the river who's screaming out about a boat.
Or a goat.
Boat! Boat!
That's interesting. Like, potentially the signal that a boat was coming could travel faster than the boat itself.
Precisely.
And
because there were, even up the river, anyone hearing a yell of some kind that had that syncopation would be understood to be boat, even though all they would hear up the river is,
Right.
They would think, boat. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's interesting. Greetings, podcast listeners. I'd like to break the fourth wall for a moment and talk directly to you. Dennis and I have a lot of fun making this show, but podcasting takes equipment, time, and energy. If we're going to sustain this show for the long term, we need some help from you. Think about it like this. We're giving you roughly 4 hours of content every month. How much is 4 hours of entertainment worth to you? Think about other things that you pay for to be entertained for 4 hours, like 2 movies, or a round of golf, or a weekly yoga class, or maybe a concert. That's the level of support we'd like from you. If you find our discussions entertaining, we'd really appreciate any support you can afford to give. Please, if you can't afford to give money, don't. But if you can, to donate, go to happyhour.fm and click on the red Become a Patron button at the top, and then choose a tier that you'd like to support us at. Thank you very, very much. Now, back to the nonsense. One of my favorite examples, one of my favorite versions of a webcomic that I really like, does the calculation of how quickly someone, like, say in California, there's an earthquake, and when someone feels the earthquake, they go and they go to tweet about it on their phone, and potentially their tweet could reach someone before the shockwave of the earthquake actually reaches the person. So someone could see a tweet saying, "Hey, there's an earthquake," and then feel the shockwave. Feel it. Right. And so your description of this faster than boat propagation of the information reminded me of that. That comic will be in the show notes. It is so good.
Speaking of comics, so have you seen, and can you please post some of the stand-up comedy from the current president of Ukraine, who prior to his post as the president of Ukraine was in fact a stand-up comic? I would be interested in
stand-up comic who played the president,
who played in one of his acting gigs.
Yes.
And here he is at the center of the I love the
which
fact
is not
that,
totally different from our situation, but yes.
There's a spaceship that lands on Earth somewhere near Columbus, Ohio, I think. And the spaceman says to a guy standing on the street, "Take me to your leader." And the guy on the street says, We're having a little issue with that right now.
It's not a good time right now. Let's maybe come back in 4 years.
It's not a good time. So
he might grab you by the crotch. But who knows if that's where your genitals are?
Well, or by the throat, because if that's where they are.
Right, exactly.
Or in the forehead area like they are for you.
Don't stop. Yes.
You admit it freely?
I would appreciate people not touching my forehead because it excites me.
It's not what I hear at all about what you want. in what you do, but it's not for me to talk about your forehead on the air. If we possibly would be video, would skyrocket because they would see how weird you are with the stuff growing out of your forehead, and we'd be successful. So we should switch to video.
Yeah, but then they might see you too. Well, and I think it might counterbalance.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Why is that? Little grasshopper?
Well, I don't know. Your aspect.
Fish on, fish off.
Yes, you're always
fish on, fish off.
You're always fishing on and fishing off. The whole, I don't know. The whole capturing and then resuscitating.
So I took some videos on the river. We can post one if you'd like, but this one particular was I would title it The Netter. And it was about our buddy Rick, who was under the pressure situation of having to net a fish for the most successful fisherman on the river, my brother Timmy, who had yet another one on ready to be netted because he successfully played him to the point that she could be netted. And you're the man with the net, and I see that you're yawning.
So Timmy had two fish on a line, on two separate lines, because he caught one, and then how did that work? What? You said that, you said the netter was gonna net one of
Timmy's fish,
but the Timmy also.
Of the many over the course of the day.
Not simultaneous. Okay, got it.
That were nettable and netted. No. I was his netter, and pretty qualified netter. But this is about Rick, who it's nerve-wracking. I mean, you've got a fish that's 20 pounds splashing around in the water. There's a log behind you. If the fish goes over, it'll get away. If you go too deep, you're going to get wet in the net, and the fisherman's trying to bring the fish toward the shore.
I'm terrified already, yes.
The fisherman yells, "Get him!" And you lunge and you might miss. You lunge, you could hit the fish and knock it off. Ah, shit! Or you can lunge and you can get the fish head on. Well, yeah, but it's nerve-wracking. And there's Rick and a lunge and a miss, and a lunge and a miss. The fish is out, and finally a lunge and successful. And I zoom in to do a close-up of his face, and it is one of perfect relief. And
wait,
wow.
The face of Timmy or the fish?
Relief. No, the fish.
The fish is
which
relieved.
I got close up of that was like all teeth and eyeballs, and it'll be posted.
Yes. Well, I think you just painted a picture.
There was a controversy, and we might. Yes. And I think that it's probably fair game.
A fish controversy.
For a controversy.
Yeah.
And so we should post the video, and get viewers to chime in. But it's a picture of my brother Joe, who is so. Some of us measure our fishing day with a ratio of number of fish on to number of fish landed. It's typical.
Fish on, fish off.
I was 15-1 one day.
Is that good?
It's one to land. Yes, it was my first landed fish in 4 days. But the 15 I had on,
you're not very good at this.
I had them on over the course of an hour and a half. That means every other drift, every third drift or fourth drift, I had a fish on that was screaming and running and leaping. Joe, however, measures the ratio by time, number of time out of the river, untangling knots and rigging up versus time on the river. His ratio too,
I feel like
mine is 10-1. So he spends 10 times as much time tangling and untangling. And so he had a fish on. And he had it hooked very well in the mouth, and he was playing it, and he was successfully holding it in a position where Timmy, the best netter on the river, could net the fish.
Best netter on the river.
And as the video plays out, and it's cockeyed and this and that, you finally see Timmy start to go and not to go, then to go and to go. And when he got under the fish, the video shows a fish flying in the exact proximity of the net into the air, completely airborne. No, the fish wasn't in the water at all. It's out of the water
and then
in the air.
Nothing but net.
Nothing but net.
Swish.
And the controversy is this.
Fish swish.
Did he have the fish in the net, and did the fish jump out? Or when he netted the fish, did he actually help it jump out by bumping it? There was a controversy brewed, and our good friend Cowboy, who's large and in charge, and he said, he's from Pittsburgh, and he said, "You knocked that fish off. You knocked it off. That's clear as day." And Tim was like, "Bullshit, man. That fish was in the net. It jumped out of the net." And so we should post it. And well, we will post it.
So
I have a 1-minute version.
Well, I mean, I think that our listeners need to see this video for themselves and decide on their own whether or not the fish was in the net and then escaped, or it's like, you know, your net is sort of like a really loosely strung tennis racket, right? So you're sort of lobbing the fish.
Are you sure you're not British? Come on. Go ahead and admit that you're a fucking Brit with a clever American accent, and that your parents adopted you or whatever.
I mean, if you're lobbing with a racket over the net.
What's that?
I don't know.
That's French. Why are you? Why are you speaking with a French accent?
Because
what?
I don't know.
You're out of control.
I don't know. I don't know where I am.
This has happened to people before, where they forget where they are in an important time. I mean, I told you I've been in meetings where I look up from a split moment of reverie, and I don't know where I am. It's like waking up in a hotel room,
right?
Because when you're traveling, and not knowing right away what city you're in, and whether you're getting out of the bed to the left or to the right.
Well, and the super freaky part is when it's so dark that you can't see any walls, and then you have to sort of be feeling along the wall because you're not really sure what the fuck room you're in. Has that happened to you, where you wake up somewhere and you're just totally confused as to where the hell you are, and eventually maybe you find a light switch or a door or something? No? Is that only me?
Feeling. Such a special feeling.
You've done that too.
Feeling for the walls at night.
I know, but
and wishing you were here. Well,
or like the window looks sort of like a window but in the wrong place.
What? Is it?
At night?
What's that?
Yeah.
Right.
That's like how people feel listening to this drivel.
Drivel.
Like
the drivel. That would catch on. That would be a good name for a band. The Drivel, right? And it'd be slobbering, gross musicians.
You drivel for a bit, and then you shoot, and then nothing but net. Greetings, podcast listeners. I'd like to break the fourth wall for a moment and talk directly to you. Dennis and I have a lot of fun making this show, but podcasting takes equipment, time, and energy. If we're going to sustain this show for the long term, we need some help from you. Think about it like this. We're giving you roughly 4 hours of content every month. How much is 4 hours of entertainment worth to you? Think about other things that you pay for to be entertained for 4 hours, like 2 movies, or a round of golf, or a weekly yoga class, or maybe a concert. That's the level of support we'd like from you. If you find our discussions entertaining, we'd really appreciate any support you can afford to give. Please, if you can't afford to give money, don't. But if you can, to donate, go to happyhour.fm and click on the red Become a Patron button at the top, and then choose a tier that you'd like to support us at. Thank you very, very much. Now, back to the nonsense.
So I'm going down to New Orleans. I'm leaving tomorrow. We'll be.
Going down to New Orleans. Gonna do something else.
Just a woman told my mother the day I was born, I'm gonna be a bad man coming. Gonna be a son of a gun.
Gonna catch some fish. Gonna throw them back.
Fish off, fish off. In the net, out of the net, in the net. In the boat, out of the boat. In the net, out of the net. Fish on, fish off.
Aren't we really all both in the net and also at the same time out of the net?
We are so. Well, you are usually out of the net, so to speak.
Well, I mean, is that a good thing? I'm not being held down by the man.
It seems to be working fairly well for you.
I'm swimming along at my own pace.
Right. Nose upstream. Gills moving.
Right.
So when you willed yourself to grow both an ankle and your genitals out of your forehead, can you now will yourself to turn your ample cheeks into gills?
I can breathe underwater, yes.
You can already?
Yes. But sometimes someone throws a little, what looks like a fly to me into the water, and I go and I bite it, but it turns out I weigh more than what their little weak-ass line is good for, so I can escape.
Well, let's hope you don't end up with a hook and a chunk of line in your fucking mouth for the rest of your life until you swim up the river and die.
I've got a couple. At
least when we catch you, we take the hook out, and then we let you free.
Okay, well.
If you really love a fish, you will set it free.
And if it loves you, it'll come back to you. So you can fry it.
Cowboy caught the same fish twice. My brother Mike caught a fish.
Hold on. What a beautiful sentence that was. Cowboy caught the same fish twice.
Should we turn it into a ballad?
Well, if
I met her at a bar and we first married. We divorced just a year after that. And then we met again and we remarried. And now all I can say is that.
Yes.
Oh, Cowboy, he caught the same fish twice. She was super, she was really very nice.
Yeah.
But he used a fly that you could not see. And that will be the end of me. What are you drinking there, bro? What are you drinking, brah? Hey, brah. What you drinking, brah?
A Scotch whiskey.
It's not. It's a British. If you're going to say it's Scotch, it's not British. It's Scottish. It's different.
Aye, laddie. Tis a.
It's the best Scotch there is.
Tis a whiskey.
It's the best Scotch I had.
Aye, mate.
Well, mate. What? Wasn't that from Australia?
They say that in the UK too.
Do they?
They do.
In Scotland?
Well, I don't know about that. In England they do. Yeah.
That's where we were a moment ago.
Yes.
So check yourself. Check yourself on this.
I will try. Fish on, fish off.
In the net, out of the net. In the net, out of the net.
In the net, I'm telling you, man, it's all about tennis. You serve really hard. You're casting your thing, and it goes in the net. And you're like, well, shit. And so you try again, and you serve again, and your opponent hits it into the net, and you're like, yes. So, if you get a couple fish on the line, but then they leave, maybe it's 40-15 or whatever. 40 love.
Oh, it's the number of fish you've hooked compared to the number of fishes that you've landed.
Aye.
And so there is, in fact, love involved. To bring the fish from a fish that is hooked to a fish that is landed, that is caught,
aye,
is reliant
on
love of many things. The fish, the river, the fly,
the hook,
the line, the day, and, strangely enough,
dun.
God himself.
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, whenever you start a game like in tennis, it's just love all, man.
So where were you born and raised? I want to start a fucking inquiry. There is no way that you are who you say you are. Who you say you are would never have said what you just said. Who you really are did, and what I want to get to is who really are you. So, well,
I was born on the island of happyhour.fm, and I live here in my lonely existence, casting my net, and occasionally pulling you out of the water, only to resuscitate you and let you back out into the stream.
Stroking me under the belly, holding on to my tail.
Aye.
Hey, get your hands off my tail! I don't let anyone move. Just touch my tail. No bloke such as you. Let go of my damn tail.
One time you're in the net, and then you're out of the net. I
gotta... Fuck the net. This is shit. Just fucking let go of my tail.
I'll let go of your tail when you're ready to swim away. Or
we
something.
need some musical interlude. When the fish is caught in the net. So let me explain to you the heroic move of the best netter on the river, the best fisherman on the river, my younger brother, Tim, who was my netter for the fish that was of the 15 that I caught. None landed up till that point, and had the fish on in control to a degree, bringing it to the side, to the back, to the front, to the back, him yelling, "Don't pull it, pull it," screaming, blah, 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 blah.
Pull, don't pull, pull, don't pull.
Then, just when he was almost close enough to get the fish broke off. And my pole and my line went flying in the air behind me, which he saw out of the left side of his eye as he lunged forward into the river and caught my fish and netted her and brought her in.
So the only fish you caught had already escaped your line?
No.
It broke off the line.
I landed two others as well.
The first.
This was a correctly landed fish with an asterisk that says, "Thank God for the netter," but nonetheless, a successful landed fish.
Okay, so on the behalf of our listeners who are animal rights activists, I would like to question you as to the ones that break away and escape. They still end up with the hooks in their mouths.
Maybe not.
It's not the ones that you
Hang on.
Catch.
5 times out of 6, I get my hook my fly back when I lose the fish. They're just not hooked all that well, as opposed to hooked very well. If they're hooked very well and they don't run into a tree, under a rock, way up the river,
right,
then the odds are great you'll bring them in.
Even if you have a weaker line than the fish weighs.
Yes, because the tension of the line is a miracle of science, where the 20 to 25 pound test fly line connected to a 12-foot test line of about 7 feet long, connected to a 4-foot line about 10-pound weight, right? That's an 11-foot drift when you're throwing your line in the water, and the fly line and the monofilament moves up the river.
Okay.
That's your span.
Okay, so you're not a very good hooker.
Well, some wouldn't say that. Some would.
I mean, if
I held my own. I know this, that over the course of the trip, I landed 3 fish and hooked into 35 or 40. There were 2 of our friends who came in and left after 5 days, who had hooked 1 and 2 fish and landed none and went home. We don't have any pictures of them. We don't have pictures of anybody unless they've got a
We shall not even say their names. That's good. Yes.
We shan't.
We shan't. We shan't upon them.
You do. You would. And enjoy it. Looking for a bidet. Oh, just shit. Well, it's a bidet. What's the nearest bidet, please?
I shan't.
What's the nearest bidet, please? I seem to have shit myself. I seem to have drunk too much whiskey and shit myself.
Look.
Can you say, where's the bidet?
Some of us have more control than others. So interesting that you... Yeah, this is a world that I don't really know. So how many hours did you spend on a given day out at the river?
We would get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We would. I was the camp cook. My brother and I share those responsibilities. So I prepared lunches for everyone to go.
Is lunch at 7 a.m.? What the? You get up at 3.
You eat all day.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you get a bag full of all sorts of sandwiches.
Getting up at 3. Wow.
And so then you're out of there at 5:35. You're on the river to claim your spot. You can only fish beginning exactly 20 minutes before the dawn, the minute of dawn. And so you go to the river and you find your spot and you sit there and you're ready to go. And you just talk in the dark with your partners, whoever you're with. And you should be rigged up before you go because it's dark. My brother, however, Joe, has got a light on his forehead, and which you would appreciate more than others. And he's rigging. And he's like, as he would describe it, he has hands of stone. And so he's trying to rig up these little tiny flies and this little tiny line and these special knots. And if you don't tie them right and you pull the fly, it'll come off the line. Well, you can't have that. You got to clip it and tie it again. It's got to be right. It's got to be right. And there's special knots and this and that. So, we I mean, he's up in age a little bit. He's a couple years older than me. And so so if he would wander away after he was frustrated with tying lines and throwing in the water 4 times and spending 45 minutes untangling, and it would walk away. And we thought the other day what would have happened. We found him once laying in the woods on a rainy day, and it was odd. And we said, so we were walking out of the river. There he was laying in the woods, a little damp. So we say, well, what's up? And he's just the most optimistic man in the world. Oh, hey guys, how you doing? And say, so why are you on the ground? Well, I fell, and I just decided to wait here rather than get up because I might have hurt myself. As it turns out, he broke a rib, I think, and it was I mean, wow. That's terrible injury. So when he wanders away and says, I got to go to the car, I got to go take a shit or whatever. Right. After a while, we wonder. And so we were contemplating what happened if we found him in the field that he had, passed away. Right. And we thought, well, we would just go back and fish because it would be a better story. Right. If we had fished and caught a bunch of fish. And you found your brother dead and then went back to fishing more. And because he was in the fetal position and was stiff, then he would fit in the net easier so we could drag him out of there. This is like... We were trying to have a plan. Right. We discussed on a previous episode that movie, A River Runs Through It. That's all about fly fishing and brotherhood and stuff. So do you think when the fish pull a fisherman into the river, rather than say that they've been landed, they say that they've been rivered? No. Because, I mean, the whole landed concept is very tethered to the fact that we got this thing out of its environment into ours. And then I guess you let it go, but... No. Okay, well... Nope. Okay, glad we cleared that up. You'd be drowned by the minister for saying such a thing. In the river. Drowned in a river. It's like, I come here, I'm like all lighthearted, and then you come and you put this you throw this heavy shit down on me, man. And it's like, why do you do it, man? This is some dark stuff coming from you. So I have a question. So you let all the fish go? All but 2 amongst us, which we cut into pieces and froze to fly home. Fish don't normally fly, but if they're frozen, they will? Well, you have to throw them repeatedly across the country. Okay. So like a new game, like Frisbee golf. So you have some part of the captured fish in your freezer somewhere? I don't, but my brother does, yes. He freezes fish and carries it on board as a frozen lump of fish. He's very proud of this, how he does this. He's quite good at it. He is, in fact, the frozen fish man. The frozen fish smuggler, sounds like. Yes. No. I had some issues at the airport in France coming back home where, first of all, apparently France is on some sort of high terrorist alert because they are, and they so the airport's security people there were very belligerent, and they would tell me something in French, like when I got up, you're going through the line, and then you get to someone that says, go over there to line number 4, and you sort of understand because they're pointing, and you go over there, and then the lady there was like, da 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 da. And I was like, sorry, parle anglais, sorry, speak English. And she yelled at me again, and she took my suitcase because I had
my only bag was a carry-on, and she got really angry and she like threw it in a way that was very just mean, belligerent, yeah. And then like I was trying to get out all of my stuff with my laptop and things so that I could go through security. And then I went through security, but then when I got onto the other side, all of my items were chosen to have further inspection.
Of course.
And so then I got to the other side, and the lady there. Well, first of all, the first person I got said, blah, 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 and I said English, and they said, okay, well then you go talk to this other meaner person over here. And so she was just just angry that she had to deal with me at all.
What country?
France. And she said every time she wanted to open something of mine, she said, can I? And then immediately opened it before I could respond, as if I could possibly say, no, really, I would appreciate if you would not open my bags before I get on the airplane. So it was just sort of this fake bullshit nicety. And so she opened all of my shit, and I had to stifle a giggle as her rubber gloves were getting caught in my zippers when she was unzipping all of my backpack and my suitcase and stuff. She would unzip and it would get stuck, and she would like try and pull it away, but she couldn't. She had to unzip it back, and anyway, because her gloves were too big. And anyway, it was just hilarious. Except that she was pulling out all of my shit and throwing it around, and then left everything to me totally with the zippers all undone and stuff. And I don't know, it was very invasive in a way that as a rich white dude, I'm not used to being treated. But
listen, man, post the experiment, the test done by the feds to try to sneak in over 210 people with fake bombs and shit on them, and how many were detected out of 210. And don't bother to think that you need to use two hands. So the actual...
Okay, hold on. I want to guess. This is in the U.S., I imagine.
Yes.
People with bombs that should have given a positive response to the... Fake. Yeah, fake, but they should have been caught.
Including some...
Of 210, I want to guess that... I want to guess that 200 got in.
One was detected. 209 got in.
Exactly. It's all just such theater bullshit. And
to make us feel safer rather than to be safer. There's probably some substance to their increased safety with some of the restrictions, but nonetheless.
Yeah, and also, I posted this on the internet, where I've never felt as much like I was in a police state, where the police were there ready with assault rifles and armor and shit to just take me down, as I was in France. Like really? I saw a bunch of police that were just armed to the teeth, and it felt very unnerving. And I say this as someone who has been to Russia.
Right.
So the fact that France was so sort of like, I'm very, 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 very lucky that I've never been in a zone of armed conflict. And so for me, it was very unnerving to see so many assault rifles being trotted around. And also this past week, I experienced for the first time what it feels like to have tear gas in my eyes.
Oh no!
Because I walked into a square and I was looking around, and I was like, man, my eyes sort of itch. And then I ran into some friends that I had met over the past couple of days, and they said, "Yeah, do you feel that in your eyes? They've been spraying tear gas around here because there's been some protests and stuff." So that was unpleasant. So anyway,
I hope unusual or so different from the U.S. and our protected, comparatively safe existence in this country. It's pretty astounding.
So I hope that this episode has not gone down as well as tear gas on our listeners. And we will say a fine good night to you, Mr. Dennis. And I will see you... It's
about a phase of the spectacular this evening.
What now? What?
Innovative.
Innovative. This is an innovative episode.
Indeed.
Yes. Aye.
Ouch.
Aye.
Aye.
See you on the morrow.
Let go of my chair!
If you've enjoyed what you just heard, you can support us by telling a friend or sharing us on social media. Monthly donations to help us pay for hosting and editing can be provided at patreon.com/happyhour. That's all one word, happy hour. All our episodes, including show notes for each episode, are available on our website, happyhour.fm. You can tweet at us at happyhour.fm, that's with the dot spelled out, happyhour.dotfm, or we can receive email at the same name, happyhour.dotfm@gmail.com. It would also be great if you could give us a positive rating on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. That really helps other people find us. See you next week.